We've all heard the stereotypes. Lazy, arrogant, self-absorbed, and too incompetent to do any type of work. That's how Gen Z, the generation of people born between 1997 and 2012, was, up to very recently, characterized by the mass media and popular culture. We were said to be having it easy, never really escaping from those comparisons with what life used to be like without technology, and all these things we simply take for granted. Does, however, this generalization actually reflect our attitude? Are we so carefree that values like work ethics or social responsibility have been left behind? Hello everyone, I'm Gabriela Panova, a Gen Z student fascinated to see a world abandoning toxic prejudices and actively supporting youth empowerment. Before diving deeper, I'd like to emphasize one thing. Being doubted at first is not an issue experienced only today and only by Gen Z. Historically, in all time periods, there has been the conflict between liberalism and conservatism, respectively, younger generations as opposed to their seniors. Welcoming new ideas has always been challenging, especially if they come from someone considered inexperienced, which in many cases was associated namely with age. And this is a cycle, not a one-time Gen Z experience, because there has never been a period in history when this wasn't common. I thought about this in the modern day context. What caused the bad reputation of today's teenagers? Most people would agree that the excessive use of technology is to blame, more particularly social media. That's due to its ability to capture our minds in endless scrolling and waste our otherwise valuable time. Now, this isn't an uncommon discussion. Tons and tons of articles online comment on the deteriorating effects of such platforms on their users. From mild to more severe, various consequences have been identified, ranging from mental health issues, short attention span, also cyberbullying or privacy breach, FOMO, fear of missing out. All these are indeed concerns we know we need to tackle. But in a sense, they might also be a bit overanalyzed. You see, each one of these, in its essence, directly evokes negative feelings inside of you. The moment you witness hate speech, you know that someone is abusing their freedom of expression. The moment I witness a friend comparing herself to a model influencer, I can remind her that, well, real life just doesn't have filters. And as years go by, this side effect of social media will likely be forgotten. Trends are cool, only when they're new. They're cool and exceptionally desirable when one faces restriction. As long as parents forbid their children from using their phones if they don't study, or by allowing it only on special occasions, these exact kids will be even more desperate. Gradually, however, the uniqueness of social media and electronic devices will fade. It will become part of what it means to be human. But the stereotype will persist, proving that social media is just one variable in a long history of human development. If, you might ask, the key to using social media in a healthy way is through detecting its disadvantages, then why is it so difficult? Why does the lazy, overconfident, and with nothing to offer in terms of skills stereotype still prevalent among young people? And linked with their reliance on such networks. Let me explain, from the perspective of a Gen Z kid. As it looks, lazy and phone addicted have become synonyms. One appears at first glance to lead from the other. Just like how being hardworking leads to being successful. Being part of the generation in question, I constantly notice ridiculous portrayals of what we supposedly look like and care or don't care for. This is evident in the way teenage characters are portrayed in movies, for example. Gloomy, rude, refusing to get some fresh air in between those gaming rounds, usually failing school. Yes, in those cases, the terms really do overlap. But laziness is by definition unwillingness, or reluctance to do stuff. If social media caused it, then it wouldn't make sense to have lazy people in any other century, right? And we know there were quite a few. So this isn't social media's impact. Here, objections might be raised that it is not about inventing laziness, instead simply that more people suffer from it today. And you'd be right, because that's due to technology. Technology's ultimate purpose is simplifying everyday life. If there is something social media in particular triggers, that's procrastination, not laziness. Procrastination refers to temporarily losing control of one's time, about delaying work. It's about prioritizing wrong stuff at the wrong moment. And yes, it can be dangerous, but it implies that you will eventually do what you intended to. So some delay is undoubtedly less harmful than not even starting to chase your dreams. And as years go by, this will likely stop being an issue. And it is likely that these negative impacts of social media will likely be forgotten. Okay. So there should be something fundamental in a young person's perception of the world, something that has always been present but is additionally fueled by today's environment. That's the conclusion I came to. Because if social media isn't the reason, then why is the stereotype prevalent? At first, I was convinced in the incompatibility between generations. Adults, I thought, don't do enough to support youth. They don't provide enough opportunities. They ignore requests for funding student events. That's what I used to believe. But I admit I was wrong, because I was unfairly victimizing young people. Recently, as I actually got to collaborate with institutions, I noticed how things might look from the other side. And, well, companies might not always be to blame. Just like how I've had my negative experiences, maybe companies were also disappointed by people my age. Maybe those new employees they hired turned out not to be as dedicated as they claimed, or out of sensitivity are unable to handle criticism. I admit that this happens, but I'm certain that it's very far from being a trend. This scenario is irrelevant because instances of this behavior are more common in low-paid jobs, or those that young people refer to as temporary. Of course, this isn't an excuse, but it is also not limited to young people. If one didn't choose the right path, then simply working will be one heavy burden. Gen Z or not, unmotivated people rarely even try to make a good impression. So again, the conclusion is this cannot be the reason. This isn't why adolescents aren't taken seriously. There should be something fundamental in a young person's perception of the world. Something that has always been present, but is additionally fueled by today's environment. And yet, hidden behind the superficial meaning of cliches. Here's my insight. It is the conviction that one can become successful by taking shortcuts, by compromising on effort. Why is it the case? Because such mindsets are based on hope. And who's hopeful? Well, kids are hopeful. If there is one quality of theirs to admire, that would be it. Most are not informed about life enough to worry. And even when they stop being oblivious, they would rather suggest a solution instead of worrying. As you grow, however, you get introduced to the gloomier nature of life. Your values, well, hopefully, transition to become more socially oriented. In your teenagers, however, this process is not fully complete, and the childish hope expresses itself once more. This time, in believing in the possibility of quick and easy success. And remember, I mentioned earlier, it is additionally fueled by today's environment. Well, social media is the ultimate source advertising life as perfect as a dream. Tips and tricks on how to reach financial freedom by our 30s. Or learn how to invest in 3 simple steps. You can find all these tutorials online, guaranteeing happiness. And they are tempting. If there's an easy way, then why not? A person my age might say. But an adult's reaction to this would be something along the lines of, just wait, you billionaire wannabe. Because easy just doesn't work, especially if you want to be an inspiration to change the world for the better. There is no substitute for hard work. And navigating today's world is complex. But life was never supposed to be easy. Do you know what it was supposed to be? Dynamic and exciting, with ups and downs, and all their terrific surprises. That's the truth adults wait for us to realize. And that is the stereotype in its essence. Great. And what now? Did we just generalize every newborn on planet Earth by attaching the same label of not old enough to worry? Well, almost. Almost, yeah. But there is nothing wrong with that. Being carefree is the best compliment a child can ever receive. Sadly, we all know that that's not the case for millions of children worldwide at the moment, which is why we should be actively engaged in solving such global problems. But wait, who are we? That's the point we should focus on. And here's my answer. We're those in whose case carefree should be an insult. Those in whose context carefree means ignorant and self-absorbed. I'd like to end with a few questions I encourage each of you to consider. Does the stereotype of young people have a constructive implication? Does it suggest that it is a phase outgrown just as naturally as it came to be? And finally, what is your role in the school of life? Are you a hopeful freshman or a wise mentor? Thank you very much.